The work we're doing through the Social Innovation Fund is collaborating with some other local authorities and councils throughout the country, a small group, and collectively we are considering and looking at how we can support families with disabled children to access family support services and short breaks, which we know are vital to their health and well-being, without having to be subjected to the full weight of social care assessment.
So the project aim really is around improving the experience of the assessment process for families, particularly parents and young people, but also equally for the professionals, and looking at ways that if we're working together, co-producing, so all of the various stakeholders, say professionals, young people, families, sitting around a table looking at the issues and then problem solving together, that actually in those discussions you can come out with better ideas, more innovative solutions that actually save the local authority money as well, which in turn then help those families have a much better experience of assessment.
We are interviewing parents who have been through the assessment process about that experience, and also asking them to co-design and co-produce a new process that will make that experience hopefully better going forward. So my role is really to engage with parents to ensure that we get the right number of parents involved in the project, to ensure that they're comfortable talking about their views, and to ensure we have as many and as diverse a group of parents as we possibly can.
So there are 4 phases to the project. The first one is the discovery phase, where you're kind of understanding what the issues are. The second phase is really kind of analysing that information and pulling out key themes to what are the main barriers. The third phase is a kind of what we call ideas generating phase, where you're brainstorming some of the solutions to meet some of those barriers. And then the fourth stage is the kind of co-design and testing stage, where you're developing and actually delivering the solution and then testing it to see whether, yeah, that works. Do we need to tweak it, get some feedback, and then kind of amend it and retest it?
Right back at the very beginning of the project, we identified families, parents, who had been through an assessment process in the last 12 months, and we invited them to an information session to come and hear about the project and to see whether they might be interested in taking part. From that session, they were then invited to complete a questionnaire about their experience, and that questionnaire was either done in focus groups or it was done online, and we also had face-to-face conversations with parents about their experience.
So there were probably 4 key themes that came through our discovery phase that we felt were barriers that needed to be looked at. The first was around the initial understanding of assessment, and that first kind of call from a family to say, things are not quite right and I need some help but I don't know what. There was lots of confusion, lack of clarity, not just amongst parents but also professionals. The second point was around what we call the early help form, which I think in other authorities is called the CAF. And again, it's about how we use that form and who can refer and to whom and how long does that take, etc. That was unclear. And from a short breaks perspective, once a panel had made a decision to provide a short break, how long it took for that process then to come to a conclusion where families received a service, it was just ridiculously long. And clearly there were barriers and issues that families were coming up against, that they were not able to actually access that support. So we've had to review that process. And then I guess a key theme encompassing all of that is information. And therefore we needed to look at what was the information out there, how clear and simple is it to help support and facilitate that whole assessment process.
The thing about short break is that nobody really knows anything about it. When you have a diagnosis, I mean, you should have like professionals telling you things, giving you information on signposting you to organizations, but it doesn't seem to be the case.
I felt that I've fallen into getting a short breaks grant. I received the application and really wasn't clear enough whether you were applying for a short breaks grant or an activities grant, so that really had to be explained further.
I got the form from the post, through the post. And I kind of feel it. I was thinking that there is going to be another sort of assessment, maybe kind of somebody coming to the house to like do their own bit of assessment. I didn't know that it has to be through the form.
I don't think I really understood why I was completing it. Do I need a short breaks grant? Do I need an activities grant? I wasn't quite sure. And then I thought I was just applying to cover for this holiday scheme. Didn't realise it was a wider picture, really.
The most difficult thing is that you don't even know what they're looking for. If when they were handing out the form, they said, this is how you're going to go through this, or it has to, even if your child hasn't got a physical disability, but he has like communication needs or safety needs, you fit it this way or that way. At least you can go home and do a good job. But when you are just kind of vague, you don't know what they actually want out of the form.
The forms I felt were a bit generic and weren't really personal to my child. I don't like the idea of just ticking boxes. You don't know whether you can get a really clear idea from ticking boxes, and I think it could have been a lot more personal to the child.
I think what has been really enlightening is the fact that we're doing this with parents and professionals in the same room. And I think that has been great for parents to understand that actually this is going somewhere.
So we had healthcare professionals, health visitors. We wanted a good school perspective because school are very much involved in that initial stage of assessment, certainly looking at referral and looking at how they can support parents and young people. So we had Senkos and inclusion managers. We've also had social care, of course, the social care experts. We've had voluntary sector organisations supporting, being involved.
It's always good to work with professionals. I believe that teamwork it makes a difference. Yeah. They hear from parents' point of view, we hear from professionals' point of view as well. And then when we bring it together, it's just like a whole broomstick held on to them, going to be useful, yes.
I think it's fantastic. You've all got your own viewpoints, so the parents have got their viewpoints and the professionals have got theirs. So it's quite good to see, you know, each other's views. I think we're quite fully integrated. Everyone's quite happy to listen to each other's opinions, so it works really well.
It's just motivational for me personally, just to see the dialogue and the conversation and everyone learning. They're listening to one another, they're listening to the other perspective, and you can see people kind of scratching their heads, and then somebody pipes up with one perspective and then it bounces and feeds another idea from someone else. And then health might, for example, give a reason and a perspective as to why they're doing that. And then the parent will say, well, actually, what about this? And you just don't get that kind of dialogue and that kind of energy and solutioning in any other way.
Well, I think because they've taken everybody's opinion is been accounted for and has been listened to, it should be taken seriously. You know, you've got the professionals, you've got the parents, everyone's got their own views, and we've all seen it from different sides.
You know, you can be saying, well, actually, health were involved, social care were involved, schools were involved, parents were involved, and people go, okay, and you can sense and you can get the feel from how things have been developed that they genuinely have been involved, and it lends more credibility then to your, you know, implementation and to the final outcome.
We're now in co-design and getting onto testing phase, and what's been interesting is looking at the current paperwork with families and actually realising that it's really complicated, and there are lots of things within it that I think the local authority thought were clear that actually isn't clear to anyone in the room, and that includes professionals, not just the parents. And actually, how do we make it clear so that families are accessing the support that they need at the right time and at the right level?
We're putting together a training programme, predominantly for professionals, but parents can attend as well, to help clarify that whole process and understanding. At the second point, we were looking at the early help form in terms of what support do families need in order to engage and understand when a referral is formally commencing, and that is part of then assessment. And so we're putting together information leaflets and pamphlets.
I feel that with the changes to the application and the whole process, it's going to be easier, it's going to be more understandable, it's going to be more transparent, more kind of family friendly.
Yeah, I think they're going to be simplified, and any issues that there were before, hopefully they'll be ironed out, and people, you know, parents will be able to read the information. It'll be a lot clearer, and I think that was one of the major issues before, that things were unclear and they needed to be set down really simply for everyone to understand.
I think it's awesome. Everything has been taken into consideration. At least I know I contributed, other people, and I heard their own views, they heard my own views. We kind of agreed and realized that, oh, it's been an issue, so we need to do something about it. And then I think the end result is going to be superb.
We need to be really clear with families about how important it is to have their voices heard. And services won't ever improve unless parents are really involved at that stage, at that co-production stage. And really it's about empowering parents and young people to have their views at the forefront of services that are being designed for them.
You need the mums and dads sitting round the table with the professionals, because you will hear something new. You will be surprised. You will get a perspective that you've never thought of. And the parents also will raise an eyebrow and at times be surprised and impressed by information they hear from professionals. So that collaboration, not only does it develop trust, it develops really clear and helpful learning that absolutely contributes to the project.